FLM 110.1 Film Analysis. Synopsis. Alice in Wonderland is a Walt Disney movie directed by Tim Burton. Unlike the original Alice in Wonderland, the director has taken a dark approach to this film. Alice is a 19-year-old and is to be engaged to a fool of an English nobleman. At her engagement party, she escapes the crowd to consider whether to go through with the marriage. She falls down a hole in the garden after spotting and following an unusual rabbit. At the bottom of the hole, she finds herself in a strange and surreal place called Wonderland. The world resembles their childhood nightmares, filled with talking animals, villainous queens and knights, and frumious bandersnatchers. Alice realizes that she is there for a reason, to conquer the Jabberwocky and restore the rightful queen to her throne. Narrative. Cause and effect. Alice is the main character and everything evolves around her. We follow her during her trip through Wonderland and know what she is thinking. Conflict happens every time Alice meets a new character and is confronted with their strange codes and behavior. In Wonderland, Alice struggles with the importance of personal identity. She is constantly ordered to identify herself by the creatures she meets. The notion of identity is explored through Alice's constant changes in shape and size, the Wonderland character's misrecognition of her, and in her own confusion about how she fits into this alien world. This is mirrored in Alice's uncertainty about who she is, in relation to the world above the rabbit hole. In this everyday world, only her father recognizes who she is, whereas everyone else just sees what they want to make her into. Temporal relationships. Jump cuts help underline harshness in the film, such as Alice feeling out of place and confined in a world of proper etiquette, corsets, and pantyhose, and a two-shot between Alice and her mother in a dispute, which suggests she is not as close to her mother as she was to her father. Spatial relationships. The close-up shots shows the audience the strong relationships between characters, such as the close-up of little Alice's and her father's face at the beginning. Form. Mise-en-scène. Setting is established through mise-en-scène and camera work. There is a panning aerial shot over the dark houses, which finally focuses on a bright window of an old-fashioned house. The audience can tell it's set in the 19th century when we are introduced to the first medium group shot of the characters, who are Alice's father and business partners. This setting is portrayed by the old-fashioned costume, the style of rooms, props, and of course the proper English language they are speaking in. This setting suggests the characters are wealthy and successful. The setting is Wonderland, a strange world that is entered by falling into a rabbit hole, where animals act as normal people. The story also partly takes place in the real world, where the story begins with Alice attending her engagement party. Wonderland is not really another world, it is in fact our own world, seen through the eyes of Alice. Cinematography. There is a lot of camera movement in Burton's films, and Alice is no different. It is used as an expressive tool, and the effect is a mystery of cinematic craft. The camera is either attached to a dolly, a crane, the traditional Steadicam device, and sometimes even a helicopter. All this creates a very rapid mobile feel, much like being on a roller coaster. One of the signature Burton camera moves is the high-angled tracking shot that glides and weaves. This is to show off the set and achieve the maximum cinematic potential of the imagery which is important in Alice, especially in the scene where she conquers the Jabberwocky. Camera angles explore a range of relationships between the characters. The high-angled shot looking down in the two shots between Alice and Hamish portray Hamish as higher than her. This could be to do with the old-fashioned style that men are superior to women, or that he believes he is superior. Editing. There is a jump cut from the opening scene to present day in the beginning of the film. Alice feels out of place and confined in a world of proper etiquette, corsets and pantyhose. The jump cut helps underline that feeling. Alice is taken to a large garden party where it is hoped that she will accept a marriage proposal from Hamish, the son of one of her father's business partners. With Alice in Wonderland, the editing is relatively smooth until the film reaches its climax, where it becomes a lot more frantic and chaotic. Here we see Burton's use of a lot of jump cuts. For example, where Alice is running away from the Bandersnatch and where she fights the Jabberwocky. This helps create suspense and tension. Sound. The background music strongly determines the narrative. It starts off slowly, however optimistic, getting louder and then slowing down as the talking starts. As the narrative changes, so does the soundtrack. In film, there are three basic categories of sound: dialogue, sound effects, and music. Dialogue is, simply put, characters talking to one another in a film. In Tim Burton's Alice, nearly every character has an accent, and most of the humans in the real world speak in a relaxed tone. The dialogue in this film is also full of silly conversations between the characters and to the fantasy of the story. Sound effects are used to add to the story of a film, and are usually recorded separately to be added to the film in post-production. Alice in Wonderland features sound effects from nature, such as birds chirping while Alice is in the garden during her engagement party. Although the audience cannot see any birds, the sound effect is diegetic, because the birds are a part of the film world. In the battle scene between Alice and the Jabberwocky emits screeches similar to what one might associate with a dragon or a dinosaur. If sound effects were to be ignored while making this scene, one would be unable to feel the full effect of the danger and suspense as Alice is about to face the Jabberwocky. Music has a magnetic quality that appeals to emotions and really draws people in. Once sound was incorporated into movies, music became just as critical to filmmaking. The soundtrack is a selection of songs or dialogue used in the film. Alice in Wonderland does have a soundtrack of songs inspired by the film, such as the song Alice, sung by Avril Lavigne. But those songs are not directly used in the film. The score, composed by Danny Elfman, played by a full symphonic orchestra, is music that can be heard in the background. When Alice is in the real world, the score has an old-fashioned English feel and helps the audience feel like they are living in a time frame of the film's settings. This changes once she enters Wonderland. As this is a fantasy film, the overall sound is mostly exaggerated, like the sound effects depicting mystical creatures. When creating a film that involves mystical worlds and creatures, exaggeratedly loud sounds are to be expected and help to establish the genre. The score that plays while Alice runs to the rabbit hole and subsequently falls down it is full of adventure and promises the audience that something exciting and wondrous is about to happen. On the other hand, much of the score in the film also feels dark, releasing a sense of underlying danger and suspense. Used together, the two distinct sounds of the score underline the theme of the film, one of daring adventure and imagination.